Okay. We will start first with very short lang actually siya class, no? Kaya na-discuss naman na to sa history of tourism, ang katong mga early tourism, naman itong mga different empires. So, we're going to proceed with the history of hospitality industry. Last meeting, that was a tourism industry. But anyway, like what I've said, identical naman silang duha. The only difference lang with the hospitality industry is it's more involved in accommodations and in food and beverage. Unlike in the tourism industry nga, it's like the total na jud siya nga package that involves accommodation, amenities, activities, accessibility, and attractions. Okay? So we will start from the very beginning in ancient period. In comparison to last week's discussion, it was more on early tourism, diba? So, kato, nag-start to siya sa time ni Noah. Ang hospitality started with the Sumerians. So, the recorded history of the hospitality industry began with the Sumerians, a group of people who live in Mesopotamia. So, if you could still remember na mga first inhabitants ni sila near the Persian Gulf at about 4,000 BC. Since much of this era is fertile, was fertile, several Sumerians became prosperous as well as skilled farmers and cattles. And because nga fertile man ang land class, they were able to produce abundant harvest. And the Sumerians were the first people to develop trade in the modern sense of the word. That is why in tourism and hospitality, ang earliest forms of tourism and hospitality before was in a form of bartering, trading, traveling for religious purposes. So, kani siya class ng mga Sumerians, just like in early tourism. Sige, okay lang. Ma-call lang ko sa inyo hangan sa later on for the attendance checking. So, later on, since fertile man and then more on agriculture man ang way of life sa mga Sumerians class, that is why nga they were able to develop trading. And trading became a source of why people travel. And not only that, since daghan naman ang ga-travel for trading, ang Sumerian traders also required the services of travelers such as food, drinks, and shelters. That is why the Sumerians, knowing that daghan naman kayong tao mo travel because of trading and bartering, nag-develop sila og tavern. Sa katong kusog kay mo dula og mga kana parsa ng although Witcher was adapted into a TV series, but it used to be a game, or kanang sa mga God of War or kanang mga medieval setting kind of game, diba? Usually you go to a tavern to resupply. Ang tavern sa una class, so in real life, mura siya og kanang how do you call this one? How to simplify it? Mura siya kanang inn. Ang kanang inn nga naay kananan. So, mura siya og inn nga naay katulgan, naay kananan. Kay daghan man mo travel sa Mesopotamia, kay tungod makig-barter. And just like in tourism, nakita man sa mga Sumerians as early as 4,000 BC nga daghan kay gabiyahe silang lugar, naghimo sila og accommodation, naghimo silang taverns nga maka-accommodate og food and shelter sa gusto mo kig-barter sa mga Sumerians. So, ilaha, more on food, accommodation, ang gidevelop sa mga Sumerians to accommodate travelers. Next are early traders. So, in 2000 BC, a considerable amount of trade had developed among the people of the Middle East. Many became traders of exotic goods. Okay? And then they needed hospitality services for their long journeys. Just like taverns nga naay, food and beverage and accommodation, mo po na ang gidevelop nila for traders who travel to barter. So, some even enterprise individuals set up caravanserai. So, man ang caravanserai? Caravanserai are just like taverns who provided food and shelter to travelers. Muna siya ang early example sa mga inns, ang kanang mga caravanserais or mga taverns. Now, let's proceed to the empires from 3,000 200 BC to 476 AD. So, dili na yung nag-flourish ang Egyptian, Greeks, and Romans. This period is known to historians as the Empire Era. Kay padakuay na ni sila og empire, no? Bitaw to nga pag-fall sa mga Romans, one of the biggest empire in Europe, ning decline ng travel, those were the Dark Ages na. Then later on na sa Renaissance, kaning balik na ang pag-prosper, no, sa Europe. We are going to start from the very popular empire, pinakadaan na pod, no? So the Egyptian Empire developed slowly over thousands of years. By 3200 BC, various groups had been united under one government ruled by a pharaoh. So usually in other empires they call it emperors or kings, no, ang ilang monarch. But for Egyptians, they call their king pharaoh. And then famous pyramids or tombs for pharaohs became tourist attractions because they marveled at the architectural structure of the pyramid. No, bitaw include siya sa old seven wonders of the world, no. Mapantil karon na ay uban pang mga pyramids nga gastan Japon gahold og mga different relics and mummified pharaohs. So the ancient Egyptians were the first to see food service. Kaya just like the Sumerians, they also provide food and lodging to travelers who went to Egypt just to look at their pyramids. Okay? So muna nga dira po nag-develop ang hospitality management. Again, hospitality management deals more on food and lodging. Pari na po ta sa Greek Empire. Ancient Greek civilization began to develop about 1100 BC or 1100 BC. It evolved in the form of independent city-states. These city-states were united by Philip of Macedonia in the middle of the 3rd century BC. And then if you know his son, which is very famous, Alexander the Great, he won so many wars nga he built an empire that surrounded the Mediterranean and extended as far as India. And then since, Alexander the Great was a Greek, he was also one of the Greeks who were very dedicated in traveling. Their land and sea travels made them dominant in the Mediterranean region. And because nag-increase ang travel, inns and taverns became common in ancient Greece. Nga na ay place katulgan ug asa makakaon ang mga ga-travel sa Greece and even outside of Grecian cities. As in the Middle East, although naman sa mga inns and taverns, na ay bad reputation lang ang mga Greeks because the owners adulterated drinks with water and engaged in criminal activities. So, gina-look down upon sila sa mga dato o sa mga powerful citizens. So, dili lang inns and taverns ang daghan sa Greece class, no? Napod sila yung mga restaurants that serve fine food sa katong nasa upper class. Let's now proceed to the Roman Empire. In 146 BC, after many years of conflict, Greece became a Roman protectorate. Okay? Under siya sa Roman Empire. That is why, if you look at their Greek gods and goddesses, they're very similar. The only difference lang is the name. Like Jupiter is equivalent to Zeus. No, Roman name niya Jupiter, Greek name Zeus. Si Poseidon nahimog Neptune, mga nga no. Pero the myth is just the same. Gin-adapt lang siya, gi-change ang name. So, when the time came that Rome had conquered most of Western Europe and Middle East, this is before the fall of Rome, inns and taverns were established throughout the empire. They made use of this because they want to accommodate travelers as well. The Romans constructed elaborate inns along the main roads for officials and couriers of the Roman government. Marco Polo described these inns as fit for a king. Some rich landowners built their inns in their estates and were managed by household slaves. So ning upgrade pod ang ilang mga inns class no nga fit for a king or para sa mga upper class. Let us proceed to the Dark Ages under medieval period. After the fall of the Roman Empire, so diba nag-decline ng travel, and innkeeping also disappeared. No, local taverns and inns were scattered throughout Europe. So, because wala na may mga inns and taverns, it was the Roman Catholic Church who took over the job of feeding and housing travelers, both religious and lay. So, the church was actually self-sufficient. When we talk about self-sufficient, they were able to grow their own food, able to raise their own cattle for meat, or grew grapes for wine. Okay? So, ang mga famous monastery shelters was the hospice of Saint Bernard located in the Alps. So, once travelers went to Saint Bernard, nga monastery shelter, they were not actually charged for lodging because they can support themselves, no? Dili naman kinahanglan sa mga gatrabaho ani mga monasteries nga mupalit og pagkaon kay they can grow their own food. And then during this time, daghan na po kay mga hospitality services gi-provide sa mga travelers. Okay? Mostly of them are charity case, no, in order to just provide for those who cannot afford or who were victims of war. So next is the Renaissance era from 1350 to 1600 AD. During the Renaissance, there were no restaurants or dining establishments. In England, there were taverns, pubs, and inns. None of these serve food. Most of them serve alcoholic beverage. And they were generally avoided by the upper class who dined and entertained in their own homes. Concerned about table manners during this period and rules to be observed, people instructed not to put food on their plate using their fingers because it's unpleasant, annoying food siya, no? And then burping at the dinner table during this time was considered unacceptable. Let's now proceed to early modern period from 1600 AD to 1800 AD. So in the 16th century, a type of eating place for commoners was called an ordinary. So ordinary ang tawag, no? Which appeared in England. These places were taverns that serve a fixed price. Kung fixed price na siya, class, so siya tawag na niya a la carte, no? Naka-fixed price na siya, fixed menu meal. So, naanay mga kuan. Apoy mga budget meal atong tawag, no? Naay fixed price nga individual pricing, naapoy fixed menu meal nga meal na siya with drinks and side dish nya sa usa ka price ra. Okay? So, during this era, coffee and tea began to influence the culinary habits of Western Europe because tea was basically transported from China to Europe and was served in the upper class. Tea developed slower than coffee as a common beverage and it became widespread in England. So, after the next century, daghan na kay mga coffee houses class that were built all over Europe. And then in Venice, naapoy famous cafe called the Florian on Piazza San Marco, which was constructed. The first English coffee house sa London was called St. Michael's Alley. And then, marapog same what happened basically here in Negros Occidental, no? Seeing that people really love just to have short orders in coffee and just talk about anything and plan about anything. That's why you can see coffee houses left and right, no? Kalabanan mo naman dyan ay trend road, even gani sa park-in, no? Ang rason nga daghang tao mo dira balag mahal ang kape kay naman just to commune, talk about life, happenings, mga ingana. So other developments of this period are not only coffee houses, no, but also the quality of inns. So in the application of English common law, and also no in France, gi-introduce ang restaurants for public dining and also mga proper places where people can dine and also have lodging, no, to sleep. Let us now proceed to the industrial era. In the industrial era, like what I've said last week, this is where farming and agriculture declined, but more now into machinery, or for example, people manning machines, factories, no, the steamships. So, ano siya sa history of tourism. So, in Industrial Revolution, they na-develop ang railroad networks, first in England, and then it affected the hospitality industry than any other development since the fall of the Roman Empire. Because the establishment ng mga railroad stations, and then it became like an excellent opportunity for people to have new hospitality businesses. Kaya daghan na nag-travel from one place to another, seeing that it's far more convenient to travel now because we have trains and railroads. So, daghan kay nagtukod og mga taverns, restaurants, hotels, kay daghan naman kay ga-travel sa ato nga place because we have already railroads or transportation that can transport a lot of people from one place to another. One of those examples kay ang Charing Cross Hotel, Pancras Hotel in London. Then you have like the Queen's Hotel in Birmingham, and then ang Enoch Hotel in Glasgow in Scotland. And in the United States, you have the Biltmore Hotel. Okay? So, which was built near the Grand Central Station because it's near the railways, okay? So, syempre, kay daghan kay mo visit sa kalugar, kay sayo naman kay travel kay na may trains. Sayo na po ka, ay daghan na po kay tao maengganyo mo travel. And then, the more need for building of hotels. Okay, next, let's proceed to the modern period, which includes the 19th century and the 20th century, just like in the history of tourism. So, in the last quarter of the 19th century, public dining was not popular. Okay? Many hotels were constructed without dining facilities. So, what usually hotel guests did was to bring their meals up in their rooms. Okay? And then, it was not until 1875 that a dining facility was opened in the Albemarle Hotel in London. By this time, gitawag na siya og restaurant, referring to the dining room of a hotel. But it's not a restaurant that provides food, but just a dining area where people can sit down and eat their food that they bought outside. So, in London, daghan na po kaayog mga luxurious hotels nga nagsigawa class, no, like the Caesar Ritz, no, later on we are going to meet Caesar Ritz, no, the general manager of the Savoy, and then later on named after him na ang mga luxurious hotels like Ritz Carlton Hotel. Next, we have the 20th century. In the 20th century, in 1921, Walter Anderson and Billy and Graham began the White Castle hamburger chain. So, kani kay kan-anan na pud, no, other than coffee shops and inns and hotels, the 20th century, mga kan-anan. So, the name White Castle was chosen because white stood for purity and castle for strength. Then you have also Marriott's Hot Shop and root beer stands that opened in 1927. Nanadiri ang mga drive-in, fast food chains, and then daghan na kaayo, no, nagawas na mga different restaurants like Le Pavillon in France, which also opened in New York, and then the Four Seasons, which offered, munang gitawag siya Four Seasons kay it's the first restaurant to offer seasonal menus. Siya summer menu, spring menu, fall menu, winter menu. Kung fall ka, more on pumpkin. Kung summer, anything that is cool and refreshing. If spring, usually kanang mga flowery, light-hearted, chamomile kind of kuan. Kung winter, o kanang mga like hot cocoa, no, mga nga na, no, perfect for the season. So, muna sa kay Four Seasons restaurant. And then, it's not only their menu nga Four Seasons, no, but also modern architecture and art nila ang mga ginaagtuan sa mga turista or guest. So, actually, sikat ka ng Four Seasons. So, I usually hear that in TV series or movies. Oh, I'm staying at the Four Seasons or dining at the Four Seasons. Kay tungod, no, man na siya, no, they started sa dugay palandaan nga panahon, and then, with their unique theme, o nang nagkuan pud sila. So again, just like after the World War II, there's also a rapid development of hotels and coffee shops. These sprung up in almost every highway intersection. And there ni mga different corporations nga natukod. If you know, again, no, just like Four Seasons, they have like Canadian Pacific, Marriott, Hyatt, Sheraton, Hilton, Radisson, Ramada. Sus kanang mga pangalan class, no? Mayon ka na high-end na dyan na sila nga hotel. I remember we have a teacher, he worked in Marriott, no? May Marriott. So ko siya, no, it's Marriott. Marriott kay, it's one of also the leading chain of hotels, international chain of hotels, that provides quality service at di mo at par jud with Ritz Carlton, pero just like Ritz Carlton, they provide customized service, which is the highest form of quality sa service class. And the reason why balik-balik ang mga tao sa ila, and they know how to take care of their employees because their employees are basically their internal customers. Now, if they take care of their employees, they can also take good care of their customers. Okay, so we are done with this slide, and we have to consume the remaining 30 minutes left because very short man lang ang history of hospitality. Again, just as simple as the under the umbrella of tourism industry. So that is why we're going to proceed to the pioneers in the tourism and hospitality industry. And because of these following people, the tourism and hospitality prospered and exist up until now. So there are several individuals, outstanding individuals to put at it, who have made a significant contribution to the growth and development of the tourism and hospitality industry. So they are Cesar Ritz, Elseworth Milton Statler, Conrad Hilton, Thomas Cook, if you can still remember Thomas Cook, no? He is the first travel organizer. Then you have Howard Daring Johnson, J. Williard Marriott, Ray Kroc, Isador Sharp, and Ruth Fertel. And to name a few. But kanirang silang mga following people lang atong i-introduce so that you will know what are their contributions to the hospitality industry. We will start first with Cesar Ritz. Cesar Ritz became the general manager of the Savoy Hotel in London. And when you talk about the Savoy Hotel class, and if you can look it up, it's one of the most famous and most luxurious hotels in the world. He made the hotel a cultural center for high society. And because of its grandeur, no, nindot kayo ang Ritz Carlton. The Savoy Hotel. So, si Cesar Ritz also decided to have his own hotel that embodies the same grandeur and luxury. So you have the Ritz Carlton Hotel. No? The Ritz name is synonymous with refined, elegant hotels and services. At present, the Ritz Carlton Hotels bears his name. And take note, if you Google or search any videos about Ritz Carlton, naku ka na siyang hotel class. Ga-provide sila high quality service. Kanang pinabutler nga style of service, very personalized nga kung unsa ang necessary or fit sa imo ang kind of service, mahatag na niya ing ana kakuan si Ritz Carlton class, no? Gahapon siya og high quality service. Next is si Elseworth Milton Statler. Elseworth Milton Statler is considered to be the premier hotel man of all time. He brought a high standard of comfort and convenience to the middle-class traveler at an affordable price. So, kung si Cesar Ritz more on glamour, grandeur, no? Si Elseworth Ritz is, comfort, affordable, no? So, he was the first to put telephones and radios in every guest room so that it can provide them with sources of communication and entertainment, as well as full-length mirrors, built-in closets, and a special faucet for ice water, which some of them can, it's potable water, can drink it, okay? So, ban kay ana na sila. Because he wants to feel their guests na comfortable sila, bahalag baratohon. Kay uban mo good affordable pero wala ga provide og basic amenities. You have to go outside and share a common CR with the other guests. So sa iya di siya ginahan ang ngana. Kinahan siya comfortable and ang affordability no kaya jud kaayo sa mga budget travelers. Next, we have Conrad Hilton. Ka-blur lang, no? Pero, if you are familiar with Hilton Hotels, Hilton Group of Resorts and Hotels, there na si Paris Hilton, if you know her. She is a socialite. Okay? Which, syempre, no? Kuan na siya, heir to Hilton Hotels, diba? So, Conrad Hilton was once recognized as the biggest hotel man in the world. He was described by the New York Times as the master of hotel finance. He was careful not to overfinance, not to overfinance, overspend for facilities and infrastructures, and then walay return of investment. And then also he had a flawless sense of timing. In 1954, he formed the first major chain of American hotels, a group of hotels which followed standard operating procedures. So imagine, no, the reason why hotels live up to the standard because he also developed standard operating procedures, or SOP as we call it, in order to make sure that smooth flowing ang day-to-day operations sa hotel, at the same time maka-provide og high quality service. Next is Thomas Cook. So Thomas Cook is recognized as the first professional travel agent. And if you've known, diba, we already mentioned Thomas Cook as the first travel organizer. So he was the founder of the world's first travel agency. He is credited for making world travel possible for the middle class. And it was because of his initiative to organize travel from Leicester to Loughborough for in affordable price, and to also arrange trips for travelers. Mo nang daghan na ma-encourage nga mo biyahe tungod niya. The phrase Cook's tour is still used at present to refer to a tour that goes to many places and stops briefly at each place. We usually do this one if we are on a budget, no? Like, I will spend 5 minutes in this place. Ito na po sa laing lugar. Spend na po 10 minutes. No? Hilig maging ana si Thomas Cook before because he's more on excursions. And if you can recall, excursions are mostly day tours which you will return back home inig ka gabi. Okay? Or inig kahapon. Diyo ka mag-overnight. Okay? Next, we have Howard Deering Johnson. So Howard Deering Johnson was the pioneer of brand leveraging. He was one of the first to introduce franchising in the 1930s. So at present, Howard Johnson is one of the famous names in the restaurant and hotel business. So ang franchising class, no, pwede ka like sa McDonald's, no? For example, I want to franchise McDonald's. Di na ko magluto, di na ko maghimog ako ang kaugalingong menu. Igo na ko mo bayad sa franchise fee. Ihatag na tanan akong mga supplies sa ako. And then, save og SOP, same og decentralize ang management, ang pag-hire sa mga tao, ang brand name, advertising, usara. So, ikaw, kung ganyan kag less hassle na kind of business and you have the money, you go with franchising. You don't have to undergo business plans anymore. Di nakakinahanglan mo conceptualize sa kind of product that you would like to sell, how you're going to advertise it. You're not going to do that with franchising because everything is already been pre-packaged for you. All you have to do is just to execute it. So, si Howard Deering Johnson ang naka-introduce ana. Next, we have J. Williard Marriott. Si J. Williard Marriott founded the Marriott Corporation, which has continued to be an important asset to the hospitality industry. And just like Ritz Carlton, they continue to provide high quality service for both their employees and their customers because they believe if they treat their employees well, then their employees will also treat their customers well. And going back to Ritz Carlton, ang ilahang theme to live by is we treat our employees as ladies and gentlemen so that they can also serve the ladies and gentlemen. Kaya mo na ilang murag theme or slogan to live by. So, if you look at Marriott right now, no, Iloilo nindot kaayo ang Marriott Hotel courtyard sa Iloilo. Just ko, wala pa ko ka-try o agto dito, but I've seen the pictures. Before, there used to be a Marriott Hotel. It's a business hotel in near Ayala, but I don't know if it's still there. Kaya I heard it's been turned into Seda Hotel na. If you look at Marriott, no, ang sa Cebu kay they provide the best breakfast buffet dyan na ang Marriott sa una. Yeah, business hotel siya because more on ilang mga facilities intended for businessmen jud, no. Ang courtyard, lain man na ang klase good nga hotel sa Marriott, good dili lang siya limited to business hotel, na sila courtyard, na sila luxury hotel, no? Independent naman sila mga resorts. Pero nag-start man na ang Marriott class not with as a hotel, no, but as a root beer stand, which was founded by necessity and built into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay? Para sa ng SM Good, started with shoe shining. And later on, nahimo na siya og malls. Nag-extend na po si SM into other ventures. Like with To Go, no? With hotels. Mga different pa jud nga lain nga businesses or ventures. Next, we have Ray Kroc. So, si Ray Kroc has been most financially successful of all the hospitality entrepreneurs that we have already heard just a while ago. Because he founded the McDonald's Corporation, a multi-billion-dollar industry, through his strong dedication, organizational skills, perseverance, and incredible aptitude for marketing. Kroc developed several operational guidelines such as quality service cleanliness. Importante ka na sa iyahan, no? Mo nang gina-follow karon sa McDonald's. And value or QSC and V. Kroc's motto is never be an idle moment, which was also incorporated into the business. Next, we have Isador Sharp. Isador Sharp, a first-generation Canadian, was a founder of the Four Seasons Regents Hotels, the world's largest hotel chain and a multi-million-dollar global hotel empire. And that is why sikat ka na pangalan nga Four Seasons, no, even sa movies, because just like Ritz Carlton, just like Hilton Hotels or Marriott, no, luxury hotel po ni si Four Seasons. So the success of the Four Seasons Regents Hotel is largely due to drive, determination, and personal taste and style of Isador Sharp. And it started first with restaurants and then moving towards accommodation and hotels. And the last one, we have Ruth Fertel. Ruth Fertel was the founder of Chris Steakhouse, the largest upscale restaurant chain in the United States. Syempre no, wala pa man kayo siya naabot totally like dominating overseas unlike McDonald's, but knowing that sa US pa lang popular na kaayo ni siya nga steakhouse, it says a lot about her success, no? So naay 59 operations, 54 ang naa sa US and Puerto Rico, and 5 internationally outside of North America. It sells more than 11,000 steaks daily, with a gross income of $200 million a year. So that is why one of the leading pioneers po ni si Ruth Fertel. So Ruth Fertel is the most successful woman restaurateur. May tag-restaurateur gani, business owner, gamanage og hotel, gamanage og restaurants. Ang hotelier, mo na siya sa hotel. Ang restaurateur kay sa restaurant. And if you've noticed sa hospitality management, we're very fond of French words like mise en place. Mise en place is a French word, which is, you prepare ingredients for cooking. May hilig kaya sila hors d'oeuvres, mga. small pika-pika. Tawag ko sa ko ang teacher sa una yan, tawag sa hors d'oeuvres kay horse divorce. Nya, kanang ginadala na mo siya until second year, we realized it was called hors d'oeuvres. Dahil kada mga small finger foods lang siya nga gina-serve to, stimulate the palate as we go or move along the course of the meal, or usually it is served with cocktail. If mga cocktail parties lang, no, people are not sitting down, usually they have cocktail tables nga stand up lang ka. Naana sa kuan sa IT park nga mo sige tindog kay walay bangko. Cocktail table sa siya, magtindog ra ka, patong kasi mong drink sa table, and then tagaan na kag mga small bites of hors d'oeuvres nga mooy marag imong ipulutan ko yung sa champagne mga anak. Okay? So anyway, that is it for now. No, we are going to stop with our discussion here so that dili po nga nakataas ang ato ang coverage for prelim. We will save some of the discussion for next na po, no? Human naman ta sa chapters 1 and 2. This is just still part of chapter 2, just a summary, continuation of it. Later on, after the prelim exam next week, we're now going to proceed with the economics of tourism and hospitality. So, dasig lang ang ato ang session for tonight. Do you have any questions?